Hi everyone, my name is BMusa and this is my final review presentation for first year studio. I started this project by studying my hands in different positions and sketching them before beginning our first assignment. I drew my hand in 6 different positions that I thought were compelling. I then did a second iteration of these drawings in ink to help emphasize perspective, and finally a more vibrant iteration of these hands that observes the different highlights and shadows produced in each position. I chose to create my wire hand in this reaching claw position because I was intrigued by the dramatic dynamic it portrays. I was also intrigued by the shadows my wire hand casted when I hung it up on the wall. I decided I wanted to further observe the balance and almost symmetry between the wire hand with its shadows, as shown in my first drawing. The second drawing demonstrates how the hand casts shadows that depict a different position than the wire hand itself. Next came the task of designing our bounding boxes. I wanted to utilize all the different sizes of the basswood sticks we were provided with, and I began to study the relationship between the different sizes and created some sketches of how I wanted them to interact with one another. I created my corner studies using Rhino rather than making physical models, in fear of running out of materials for the bounding box. The goal with this bounding box was to maintain unity within the design despite having each corner and side be unique. One major aspect I kept into consideration when designing the box was making sure it appeared to have no defined face, so that it could be positioned in any way and still work as a composition. After designing the box, I created a GIF to help demonstrate the most logical way of going about the box's construction. I designed my box to allow for versatility when it came to adding the cladding. I began by studying the position of the wire hand in the bounding box, as well as the possible ways of manipulating shadows casted by the wire hand model onto the cladding, and I created some sketches. I also went back and revisited our 4th assignment from this project, which was to frame the drawing of the wire hand model in a bounding box and add regulating lines that focus on different parts of the hand. I divided the hand into 3 sections, one being the palm and the wrist, then the index finger, and then the other digits grouped together. I chose to highlight and isolate the index finger on its own, seeing how it reaches out and isolates itself. I then modeled how I wanted my cladding to look like in Rhino by stacking layers on top of each other to limit the amount of light that passes through certain areas of the box. Allows for highlighted areas to cast stronger shadows, and the box also includes some smaller exposed areas to highlight areas that I felt were more at the top of the hierarchy. I chose not to cloud the smaller faces of the box to allow for the repositioning of the wire hand so that it can be examined at different angles. After adding the cladding to my bounding box, I went back to my model in Rhino to observe the different sections of the bounding box assembly. I developed a drawing of the top view and front view of the box, as well as a section cut horizontally through the composition. This helped me observe the simplicity of the construction of the bounding box, despite having a more intricate facade. Finally, it was time to design the podium for the bounding box. My approach for this design was to emulate a similar structure to the bounding box itself in order to unite them as a whole composition. The podium stretches from the top to the bottom of the cube in order to utilize as much space as possible. Looking from the outside, the podium looks almost like a cage, but as you come closer, it appears to open up and hold the box within itself. As you walk through and move around the podium, you see that just like the bounding box itself, the podium also has no defined face, demonstrating the versatility they both share. And this versatility of the podium encourages viewers to examine the bounding box in other positions as well. Thank you all for your time.